So yeah, just how like Riku said, we went to the European cybersecurity competition, which is basically the, well, a large gathering of usually younger cybersecurity experts and cyber athletes and such. It's I'd say one of the largest cybersecurity like CTF style events that I've ever been to. I've been there twice already, and I'll tell you a little more about that. So first of all, a little bit about me. I'm a cyber athlete, if you can call me that, and yeah, from Team Finland. Wow, surprising. And I'm one of the web guys from the team. So of course, when you're gathering a team of experts to compete in a CTF where you can have all sorts of challenges, you, well, get people with various skills there, and I'd be one of the web guys. And overall, I'm a tech hobbyist as well, and an yhdistys enjoyer. So I volunteer in lots of association thingies, and yeah, it's great. And and yeah, that's the subject of the thing. And that's one of the pictures from the event. It's rather nice. But yeah, it's basically the cybersecurity championship in, the whole EU. And the too long didn't read is that we go play a CTF and lose to Team Germany, and that's not a typo. It's one of the really funny jokes that we have there at the competition. And I'll tell you a few more later on, but you can probably guess that when you have a lot of people who are around 20 and geeking over tech, there are quite a lot of memes involved. And first of all, we got 7th place, which is really nice. We reached the top 10 for the first time ever this year. That's our mascot in the middle over there. They're called Swan Sibelius, and it's like a cultural sharing event too. We bring like some chocolate, salmiakki, and stuff like that, and feed it to anyone who comes to our table who's daring enough to talk to us, and they never come back after that. Yeah, maybe some salmari as well. I don't know. I cannot confirm that. But yeah, that's our whole team. We have our wonderful coach, Ava Oxman, over there, our manager in the middle, who you may have seen this evening. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But what's more important than the 7th place is that we beat the Swedish. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know it's a great achievement. Yes, yes. Yeah, and we almost beat the Netherlands as well. It's like a single point from like 6th, and you get like a medal when you reach 5th. So we're really close to like actual like of origin stuff. Okay, but actually, what the event is really about, it's a 2-part CTF. So we have a Jeopardy phase. It's more like one of the more traditional CTFs, and then an attack and defense CTF. And if you don't know anything about that, it's basically instead of having a service with a single flag, you have a service which generates flags. So you need to automate the stealing of the flag when you find the exploit. And all teams are connected together through an anonymizing proxy. So you can't really like block other teams from stealing stuff from you. And then there'll be checkers who make sure your service is up. So you get like service level agreement points to have your service working, and you lose them if you don't. And of course, the idea is to patch your stuff and exploit everyone else. The competitors in the competition are usually around from 14 to 24 years old, and 31 European teams and 3 guest teams. It's a really large event. This year it was in Turin, Italy, as you might have seen from the first image. And it was probably the best ECSC ever, I'd say. And it's organized by ENISA, who we had a talk from one of them earlier. I sadly missed it, but I got to catch up afterwards, which was nice. And the host country as well, which was Italy this year. Maybe someday Finland, but we'll see. And overall, it's a really unique event because you get to meet a lot of young cybersecurity experts who are really like-minded. It's so different to be there in person than to just talk online. You get to talk to people who you'd probably never meet otherwise and share techniques and new things to, geek about. But before we go into the really interesting stuff, I promise I'll show you some challenges, or at least one. I gotta plug the organization that manages this whole thing. So NextGen HackFi makes all of this possible. So if you want to learn more about them, hit up that URL, and Riku is the great manager, so talk to him if you want to get involved in this. But is it really a good CTF? Is it difficult? Well, it's the European Championship, so it probably should be, but I don't think being difficult is one of the priorities of a good CTF, and I'll explain later. And the quality, of course, varies from year to year. When different countries hold the competition, they have different takes on how it should look like, of course. ENISA gives them some guidance, but last year when we were in Norway, yeah, they had some issues, and I don't want to point any fingers, but they did reuse challenges, which was not nice. But overall, we can find out ourselves if it's a good CTF or not when I show you the challenges. And I thought about what kind of challenge I want to show to you or showcase to you. Of course, when I'm a web guy, I could show you one of the web challenges. There were many, and they were very difficult. For example, there was one challenge called Fever Dream, and it was coded in PHP, so you can guess how easy that was to solve. And all of the challenges are available online, so if you want to check those out, you can do that yourselves later. But yeah, the challenge I want to tell you about, just get a little hang of things to what you would encounter as like a competitor at the event. Suddenly, when the Jeopardy phase began, some guy gave us one of those phones. It was rather surprising because we weren't expecting a phone. We've never had a phone on our desk before during a Jeopardy competition. And what we basically got was a phone. And when we logged into the challenge platform, it was actually a challenge for the CTF. And we got like phone server configuration files and weird stuff like that. And we figured out we could call other teams, which led into some interesting conversations during the event, especially with Team Sweden. And there were some unintended vulnerabilities, which I will also mention later. But first of all, let's look into the configs that we got. So this is like the main server configuration, and I'll show you a network graph later. But it's very weird. I have no idea what this says. I'm a web guy, so I just looked at manuals and figured out a few things. So on line 2, that means we can dial any number that begins with 2 zeros, and then there's the team number, and that calls the other team. Great. And then there's number 9999, which is redacted. I wonder what that is when considering this is a part of a CTF challenge. Then we have a second config, which looked like it was team specific. So we looked at the network traffic between the phone and the switch on our desk and what the phone was doing, and we figured out that we basically have our own server that forwards the call to like the main server, which manages the whole phone network. So you could imagine that we have our own little operator, which is a part of a larger network of operators of other teams. And we can only call the team numbers, but not the secret 9999 number, which is of course sad, because that would make this challenge very easy. Of course, we tried that, but without success. But yeah, basically the network looks like this. We have our desk, our server, the main one, and there's something hidden in that number, and the Team Sweden desk, and their phone, which we did call a lot. And an interesting problem this network, like the layout of this network led to was because the relationship between the team servers and the central server was a little bit ambiguous. We didn't really know which way to, well, start figuring out how to exploit this. So it just like made all like, we did like conference calls with other teams and just fooled around for like 30 minutes or something, and then went on to other challenges. But this setup seems oddly familiar to me as a web guy. So we have our thing that's contacting something that's in a trusted network, which then accesses some other component within that trusted network. So I wonder if the communications between those two endpoints are validated. If not, then wouldn't this be like server-side request forgery if we could probably fool our server into doing something like that? But basically the problem is that we want to call that number, but we can only call numbers that start with 00, which is what this means. However, we can also, if you can just see it, but we can also input letters and stuff like that. And we figured out from the documentation that a dot means anything, just like in regex. So what if we just input our own dial commands? So we tried that, and we figured out that if we call that really specific thing, it tries to call 0000, and then we put an ampersand in the between to split the dial command to create like a conference call, but the first number is invalid. So it then just calls into the central server and gives us the flag and read it out loud with like a really bad machine voice. But luckily we had a lot of experience with that during one of the HelSec CTFs where we tried to listen to an audio clip that was saying the flag, but it wasn't actually in the audio, but you had to like stretch the waveform or something like that, and the flag was encoded in the image that would come out of that. We spent like 3 hours on that on one of our practice sessions, so this was very easy. But I call this server-side dial forgery, I guess. It's a new term, definitely. But I'd say that if we want to think about if this is a good CTF, I think this is a really good example of that. Because you apply your skills in a whole different way. You can never expect to start hacking a phone network in a CTF where that's never happened before. They come up with something new every year. So you have to apply your existing skills in whole new environments. I'm a web guy, I don't know anything about phones, but now I do. And I might be interested in hacking, phone servers and networks, and I actually started looking into SS7 and how modern phones work after this. So I think they have definitely achieved their goal of further educating, I guess, up and coming cybersecurity experts, and just overall making a good CTF, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it's a good CTF, and it is difficult because we don't really have much time to solve the challenges. So it's really about teamwork. But yeah, I think the most important thing I can tell you is to get involved in this thing. We don't have that many competitors. We want to have way more. And if you have a company that maybe wants to sponsor us, or people who are within the eligible age bracket who might be able to compete or have skills or are just interested, the qualifiers are open every year. Please let them know. But yeah, that's all. If you have any questions, I can answer them. Thank you.
Questions? No, I suppose not. We are happy. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.